Hello, I'm Victoria Ballou-Schaefer here with Joni Patry, and we are going to bring Joni's 2015 predictions for the new year. Of course, you can get much more detailed information on our website, astrologicmagazine.com. But I'd like to start off today by talking about what Joni completely nailed in 2014. There were several things that she called back in late December of 2013 that we truly saw come to pass in 2014, some on the exact days that she predicted them. The first thing was the Ebola scare, which took a lot of us by surprise, and it was something that Joni, however, saw from the very beginning. So let's jump right into this very briefly and ask Joni about it. Hello, Joni.
Hello, how are you, Victoria?
I'm great. So you totally nailed the Ebola scare for us in 2014.
Yes.
And then from there you went and not only told us about a plane crash, but you actually nailed the exact day of the Virgin Galactic space plane crash, that unfortunate tragedy that you actually said, don't fly on this day. This is not a good day to fly. And unfortunately, that's the day of that horrible crash. Something else that you mentioned was to be very, very cautious of North Korea, and we did indeed have an attack by North Korea, but it was not what we expected. It was the cyber hack that created all sorts of problems with Hollywood and the movie industry, but it also showcased the fact that the cybersecurity worldwide is nothing that we really thought it was in terms of secure, and that it's quite vulnerable. It was something that you completely told us to be on the lookout for in 2014, and it indeed happened. One of the good things that you mentioned in 2014 was that Southwest Airlines was going to have a huge run-up in its stock. It absolutely did. It was voted Stock of the Year by USA Today, and it had just a magnificent run in 2014, which you told us it would. So with those things in mind, we're all really looking forward to hearing what you have to say and as far as 2015 and what's coming our way. So we're all ears.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, 2015 is going to be a year of extremes, of many ups and downs. There's going to be ups and downs in the economy, but for the first part of the year, for the first 6 months, you can expect some rises. And one of the features that's huge that's going on right now as we speak in the month of January is the prices of crude oil. They have plummeted. And this, of course, everyone's happy going to the pumps. You know, there's a lot more spending money for the general population, but an extreme like this always causes extremes elsewhere. So even though, you know, we're rejoicing at the prices at the pump, this is going to cause major extremes in the stock market and shifts. But for the most part, I think the first 6 months through the month of July, it's fantastic for the stock market because these extremes, you know, if you know when to jump in and to jump out, you can make a lot of money. For one thing, in Texas, where we are, there's the extreme of the very big corporations, oil corporations, that are going to be buying up the smaller guys. Why? Because with the oil prices dropping, a lot of them are going to have to go out of business. But places like Chevron, Exxon, all of those are going to be able to really gobble up all these smaller companies. So eventually their stocks, even though they're going down, are going to rise. So that's, you know, what's going to be going on. So the stock market is going to be very volatile. And financially, I think things are going to continue the way they are right now. But watch in the summer and in the fall, that's going to be where big changes are about to transpire. I think it's going to be close to what we might call a stock market crash, but But I don't think it's going to be where it doesn't rebound for a long time, because there's too many people in control of things right now where things just can't stay down for long periods anymore. But I will say that watching those months, beginning in August, September, October, and November, the stock market is going to plummet. And it'd be wise for those to get out before this and remember to get back in and buy when the prices are so low. So, you got to know what you're doing if you want to make money in the stock market. Astrology is a great tool for helping people with the stock market. Many people use astrology and don't admit it, that are in the stock market. But let's talk about January, particularly right now, because so much is already happening. This year I've called it the year of the Great Awakening. And why is that? Because we have Uranus and Ketu coming together, and they come together. It's not an uncommon thing. So when they come together, though, I think it's about every 13 to 16 years that they come together. And when they do, the sign is so important. What sign they're in is what determines, how this is going to really transpire. So they're in Pisces. And I believe the last time that they were in Pisces was around the year of 1846 or 7. And during that time was this new wave of spirituality. It was called the Spiritualists. A lot of seances and, really bizarre things went on. And it was really the time when Thoreau and Emerson were doing all of their amazing writing that really was, opening the consciousness and awareness of the world. And I believe that this time is even more specific, because this time we're more aware and conscious of directing our attention within rather than without, because before, they were doing seances, looking to spirits and things like that outside of ourselves. Whereas now, I think the Great Awakening is where there's a true spirituality, where people are starting to understand that it's time to connect to that inner being that is all that is one. And this is really going to change the world. I think the whole concept of religion is changing, and people are getting really fed up with the fundamentalists, the extremists, the fanatics that are, destroying our world, like terrorists. But don't forget, those that are really fanatical in any belief system are destructive, and they create this duality or this polarity. So, even the fundamentalist Christians that go against the fundamentalist Muslims, that's two extremes. We've got to find balance, and we got to find unity, and we got to find that we are all one. We are one humanity. And I think that this awakening is really coming together this year. This year is the beginning of this. So I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be really a great year for this understanding. Now, Uranus is the planet that deals with sudden, unconventional subjects or things. So astrology is going to become more popularized this year, or this is the beginning of a new trend. And it's also radical behavior. So we have these people that really want to fight out against what they believe is the conventional norms. So there's going to be these, social uprisings that are going to happen this year, and that's already happening. So that's one aspect of that. Now, the other aspect of Uranus is it does deal with inventions. And I believe there's going to be some amazing inventions and healings that are going to come about this year. Cures for disease and understanding how the body works better and healings. But there's going to be some amazing discoveries with disease. Why? Because when we look at Rahu and Ketu, these are the determinants of destiny and what's going on. Because why? These are where the eclipses are going to be falling, wherever Rahu and Ketu are. It's like when the sun and the moon, 6 months apart, we have a solar or lunar eclipses that come at, I call it the eclipse season. So this year, the eclipse season is going to be March, and in the fall, around September. So during these times, you're going to find where things become much, much more intense in the world, because things become unstable when the sun and the moon line up with Rahu and Ketu. But this year, Uranus is with Ketu, so we've got this planet that is always involved in the eclipses, causing social uprisings, radical changes, unconventional breakouts of things where radical new age things will come about. So what is this? This can deal with discoveries, inventions, healings, and remember, I've often been talking about extraterrestrials. Well, this is a fact that they exist. I mean, people can say whatever they want, but if you ever look back at the lights that appeared in Phoenix, it was called the Phoenix Lights. This is where an unidentified aircraft hovered over the city of Phoenix, Arizona, as big as a football field. The governor came back and said, you know what? That was otherworldly. I'm sorry, I have to say the truth. So my point is, it's been around, it's been discovered, just always the government's going to say it doesn't exist because it creates so much fear. And, you know, people go crazy thinking, what if there's another world we got to fight and contend with? But the fact of the matter is they're much more intelligent than us, so they're here to help us. Many times they have gone in and deactivated some missiles that had, the ability to destroy with atomic energy. So they're trying to keep us at rest where we don't destroy ourselves pretty much. So I think there's going to be much more discoveries around this area of aliens and extraterrestrials. I know that sounds flaky and out there, but it's a reality, okay? So this month, when Uranus and Ketu come together, this is the beginning of the year. This is the time that really sets the tone for the whole year of excitement and new age things coming about. Spirituality, actually, is what I'm really talking about. And spirituality is where you connect to your inner guidance, your inner oneness. That is all with the universe. And when you do this, you feel a sense of the divine love, compassion, the heart energy. So that's what's going to abound. But remember, whenever we have one strong polarity, the other opposite extreme is always going to come and, fight against it. And people are so afraid of change. They're so afraid of the unknown. And that's what we're facing this year. So you're going to have radical people fight against that where there's the greatest darkness, there's the greatest light. So you're going to see this duality really act up this year. But I want to talk specifically about each month now. And starting with January, we do have a Mercury retrograde. By the way, Mercury will be going retrograde 3 times this year, as always, but it will be retrograde in Earth signs. So you see, in January, it's going to be going retrograde in Capricorn. And remember, those that are Western astrologers, I'm talking about Vedic astrology. So it is in a different sign than what you're familiar with. This is the sidereal zodiac. And Mercury will be retrograding 3 times in the Earth element, which represents this is a year of financial change, financial transformation. Government is going to step in and take some serious looks at the finances, and it's going to really change some things. So, and this is necessary, and you're going to find leadership is going to change throughout the world, and there is going to be a very powerful leader come forth this year, and that's going to take place this summer, but I'm going to get to that month by month. So there's a stellium of planets right now in the month of January in Capricorn, so it's a time of reorganization with government, and Mercury does go retrograde this month, so things are going to, be pulled back, and we're going to have to reanalyze and look at things from a different perspective financially. And Mercury will go retrograde January 22nd. Okay, so don't try to go anywhere or travel that day, because when Mercury changes directions, everything goes haywire. Get your computer backed up, make sure before you leave the house, you have your keys, certain things like that to prevent hassles and problems. But this is a transformational month. Now, moving into the month of February, things are going to really start to get a lot more disruptive. Why? Because then we have a stellium of planets, meaning a stellium means three or more planets in one sign. We have them all together, and this will be in the sign of Pisces. And Pisces, when we talk about the nakshatras, every now and then I talk about a nakshatra that's emphasized this year, and it's going to be Uttara Bhadrapada. That is the 26th nakshatra. It's the second to the last one in Pisces. It deals with the serpent of the deep, meaning this is a time of death and transformation. But also its symbol is the back end of a funeral cot, which can sometimes indicate there will be many deaths in the world. And I would think February and March, when we have the stellium of planets in Pisces, that this could be what could happen. Many places in the world are going to go through social unrest. And Mars becomes really strong in February and in March because it's going to be coming together with Ketu. When Mars comes together with Ketu, terrorist activity becomes rampant. Because remember, September 11th, we had Mars conjunct Ketu on that day, very tight. And so Mars is going to come together with Ketu in Pisces and in this nakshatra that deals specifically with death. So, this is, the world is always going to be having calamities like this, but I'm just focusing in on what months to be aware of. So then I'm looking at a lot of things are brewing, and there's going to be some downs in the stock market in the month of February. So start watching things. But of course, it's going to be up and down throughout the next 6 months. But there's a great fear brewing during February. People are starting to get scared. When there's fear in the air, this affects everything. This affects the stock market. This affects the way people behave. It's almost like, everyone becomes paranoid and crazy. And a lot of people, get out their guns and get out their, a lot of violence I'm looking at will be brewing this month. So, but the major events I really see happening in March, because March, remember, is the time. March 20th is a solar eclipse, by the way. And this, Uranus and Pluto are going to come to their square one last time. They've been on and off for the last few years, and it's created a lot of problems and a lot of breakdowns in government and control, which is a good thing. And I'm still thinking that the people are going to take back their power. This is what this is all about in so many ways, not just, even in the area of terrorism. I think individuals are going to start taking back their power instead of depending on the governments protecting them. So you're going to see people striking out individually. Plus, I'm still convinced that some kind of way that money is exchanged between people is going to take place in a different way. The banks are going to become obsolete in the next few years. Things like the Bitcoin are going to take over, and I know people don't have a lot of hope in the Bitcoin, and maybe that's not exactly the way that it's going to happen, but something like it is going to take over, okay? Watch that this is the new trend. I mean, for many years, people couldn't understand how credit cards were going to work or debit cards, but look what's happened now. So that's the same thing with eliminating the bank, where people will go back and forth and be able to exchange money between each other.
And Joni, we can always, we will always be updating our readers on astrologicmagazine.com through our Astro Finance in terms of what is happening, not only in the stock market, but in the banking world as well. So that's a huge reason to read the current issue each month and to tune into Astro Finance so that we can get your updates on that.
You bet. And, I have a lot of fun writing these articles because it's so current, and every month as things change, I get to write a new article concerning the economy and concerning what stocks to invest in. And my favorite article to write is Who's in the News, because who's ever, prominent at that time, I get to really analyze their chart and see why everything, in their life is occurring the way it's occurring. It's fascinating. So, yeah, I love writing these articles for this magazine. And getting back to March, there's going to be a lot of anger, a lot of disruption and attacks. This will be the month that will be most prominent. Why? Because March 5th, Mars is going to conjunct K2. And it is going to happen in Pisces around 15 degrees. So this is really significant. Mars is going to square Pluto. Uranus is going to square Pluto. This is like a monumental month for disruption, change, and I'm going to say terrorist attacks. Moving into the month of April, we have Saturn has shifted into the sign of Scorpio, and this is affecting so many people that have Scorpio as their ascendant. So Scorpio is also within that sign, there is the fixed star called Antares. And Antares is the star of war. Now Saturn's going to slowly move up to this fixed star, but I don't suspect that anything huge is going to happen this year. This is all brewing. Trust me, 2016 is going to be a big year for the breakout of war. Why? Because Mars and Saturn are going to come together in 2016. I just want to warn you ahead of time. So, basically you can prepare financially and, in many respects, because it will be the breakout year of major calamity, because Mars and Saturn will come together in the sign of Scorpio. And not only that, Mars is going to go retrograde. So Mars and Saturn will stay together for about 6 or 7 months in the sign of Scorpio. And they will conjunct together on the fixed star Antares. And I noted that every time there was like some huge war breakout, that there was always a planet somewhere in Taurus, around 20 degrees. So when Mars and Saturn are in Scorpio, aspecting that point, that's when things are going to start happening. But in other words, this year is the year that everything's brewing and moving towards that point. So, be prepared and watchful of this. In the month of April, Mars will be in Aries. And remember, from about March through June, Mars and the Sun will be traveling together in the same signs. This represents calamity, aggression, and people being very angry and striking out against governments and against each other. There's just, people are at war, basically, with themselves within. So moving towards the month of, I'm looking at May. May is a time to cash in on the stock market. Things are really moving to the point where they're at their highs. And another thing is Saturn will be opposing Mars at this time. So there will be many reversals financially with the government, with the stock market. Pay attention. So there's delays, setbacks. The housing market, it's about to shift. The housing market, real estate, has really been at an all-time high. And it's about to shift. The whole time that Jupiter is in Cancer, by the way, it's going to stay high. So it's going to shift into Leo in the month of July, and that is a huge month for change. But just to make reference to the month of June, June is when Jupiter is going to be, right before we enter into June, we have Saturn and Jupiter are in a trine together. This is good for the economy. This is why I'm seeing these trends. But the minute that Jupiter shifts signs, which is in July, watch an enormous drop in the financial situations around the world. Why? Because no longer is Jupiter casting an aspect to Saturn. And then we have Saturn aspecting Jupiter by its 10th aspect. And during that time, it's going to be the time when huge things are going to transpire in the economy. That's why I see a fall happening in the fall. I feel a drop. So you're going to find that a lot of people are looking to buy luxury items before this drop happens in June. Okay? All right, so people are fighting back in the month of June towards the government. There's strategic plans happening on the forefront dealing with war. But July is a huge turning point. I'm excited about July because in July, Venus will go retrograde. Anytime Venus goes retrograde, it deals specifically with love and romance. A lot of people will find that, people from their past, old loves come back into life. Why? Because Venus deals with love and romance. When it goes backwards, things come back. So particularly the signs that are going to have this awareness the strongest will be the ones that have either Aquarius or Leo as their ascendant. Because as Venus goes into Leo, it's going to be either aspecting the 7th house by conjunction or opposition. So look for that. But July, Venus goes retrograde, and Jupiter changes into the sign of Leo. Right before that, in the month of June, though, Venus and Jupiter are going to come together in the sign of Cancer. So that's the time to buy luxury items, a new car, or purchase a house, or sell, because this is the time that just probably sell property is a better thing because the prices are really high. But the interest rates will probably drop after Jupiter shifts signs mid-July, okay? So then we're looking at Venus conjunct Jupiter, and when Jupiter changes into Leo, and it will conjunct Venus around 6 degrees, when they both come past 6 degrees, 6 degrees of Leo, this is conjunct the fixed star Regulus. Regulus represents kings and leaders. These two planets coming together on this fixed star will make rise a powerful leader that can really change the world. And people are going, this is a reality. This is not like somebody who's just, has good PR and advertisement to make them look like, they can change the world. This is somebody that really has validity, that can change things in the world, and they will.
And Joni, are you saying they're going to be born then, or come to power then?
Come to power then, because this is going to be a big transformational change in the way that, somebody can approach things and do things differently, not the same old that we've experienced in politics. But this isn't just here in the U.S. This is globally. Remember, everything's global now. It's not just one country for itself. We have to really operate together, because I'll talk about a few countries before we finish here. But let's see, Venus turns retrograde at 6 degrees of Leo, and that is right on Regulus. So this is a really incredible event. This is going to be July 26th, okay? And, Mars is going to be squaring Uranus that month. There's a lot of things that are shifting and changing in the month of July. And another thing I've been saying is gold, invest in gold because it's been dropping. Well, when Jupiter goes into Leo, Leo's ruled by the sun, and that rules gold. So I'm expecting a big expansion in the area of gold and precious metals, okay? So also, then I'm looking at Jupiter is going to oppose Neptune in the month of July still. So this is going to be possibly many cults will come about, spiritual organizations will come about, but be careful because there could be some cults on the rise that are controlling, people's minds and leading people down the wrong path. Just watch the outbreaks of that. And, really, you could say terrorism is a cult as well. So that becomes stronger. But the deception and the delusion around it becomes stronger. And movies and creative things will really blossom this month. You're going to find amazing movies and books that come out, creative endeavors that really inspire and change consciousness. Like I said this year, if you want to boil it down to what is this year about, the shifting of awareness and consciousness, which is, amazing and wonderful. This is going to be an exciting year for that. But leadership is going to change, and this is really exciting because it's going to be true leadership. But remember that not to be too overly idealistic, because also in the month of, well, moving into August, we have Mercury conjunct Jupiter. Now that means it's a great time to travel. It's a good time to travel, so this is the month of August. But when Mercury conjuncts Jupiter, there's too much idealism. So, you got to play it out with being rational at the same time. But it's a great time to go on vacation. August is the time to do that. Then moving on into September. September is like September 17th is when Jupiter will oppose Neptune. So there's the spirituality that can become very, very strong. Just make sure it's not a cult or, controlling of the mind. In other words, may it give freedom. And Mercury will turn retrograde in Virgo in September. And as Mercury turns retrograde, it's going to be very close to Rahu. This is the time of new discoveries in the medical field. And it can also, it's not, in the month of September, don't travel, because that's the same aspect that occurred, and it's involving the eclipse energy again in the month of September. It's not a great month to travel. There will be some calamities and problems with, airlines, having mechanicals problems and possible crashes. So just be aware of September as being a difficult month for travel. And Mars in the month of September will become debilitated. So that's going to be the time when the housing markets, Mars is the Karaka indicator for real estate and property. So you're going to see a big decline in that area. Probably that means that the interest rates will rise. October, Mars will oppose Neptune. So there's a lot of deception. There's a lot of delusion. And I'm getting that the first few weeks of October also are bad for travel, so be aware of that. Mercury is going to conjunct Rahu October 9th. That's the worst day to travel, because Mercury is travel, Rahu represents problems, major problems. Moving on into, let's see, Mercury will move direct, though, in the month of October, so we've got Mercury moving forward, and November becomes extraordinarily unstable. Watch the markets, okay? Because Jupiter is becoming closer to Rahu. I've noticed with all the stock market crashes that I've studied, throughout the years, that each and every time Jupiter was in the sign before or after Rahu, every time. And that's what we have coming now, all right? So by the time Jupiter and Rahu come together, which will be in the year of 2016, that's going to be a really difficult time financially and globally for the world in every respect, and there will be a major fall economically. So you're going to see they're getting closer in the fall, and this is the time that I predict will be a major stock market crash. I predicted that last year. No, it was not going to happen, as everyone else said it would. But let me remind you, the first 6 months of this year are great. Take advantage. Okay, so then looking at December. December, I'm seeing Mars will oppose Uranus, so there's a lot of contention building that you're going to find there's going to be some major, terrible things happen in 2016. So, it's what's happening now that is the root cause of what's to occur then. And just to make reference of a few of the countries that are going to be involved with, afflicted with these problems, of course, France. I'm looking at all the countries' charts that have planets, major planets, in the signs of Virgo and Pisces, because this is where the eclipses are falling, Rahu and Ketu. This is where the major shifts of energy are happening. So I chose the countries that are going to be affected the most. And Iran is going to have problems. There's going to be a lot of aggression, war, difficulty. France and Germany expect more attacks and more problems there. So Europe, England as well. So the heart of Europe is going to be under siege with terrorism, but specifically France, England, and Germany. Okay, Turkey's got some issues going on here as well. Attacks possibly on the homeland. Not as severe as Europe, believe it or not, but they in Turkey, I'm looking at their leadership is going to change. So that's going to be a big transformation going on in the country of Turkey. China, big economic changes, huge. So they're going to go through a big, downward spiral for a while. Japan looks good. Japan's okay. That's one of my countries that I work with a lot. India's on a good, is coming for a good rise. Financially, India's making a major comeback, and they're really pushing education, and people are it's just a great time, especially for 6 months in India, for financial growth and educational growth. There's some positive trends happening with India. The U.S., the biggest change I see is where Rahu is affecting Saturn in the 10th house of this chart, which represents the government, the leadership, the president. They are going to be under scrutiny, and there could be some major issues and problems in the fall as we have these eclipses in March and in the fall. I'm looking at specifically the month of October, November, for President Obama. He better take caution and really look at how he can work with other countries and bring things together in unity instead, because I'm getting that he's causing, or people are bringing this together as separation, and that's just the way it is. So North Korea, I don't think is going to be a threat anymore. I know they've had their fair share of all their threats, but I think people are starting to realize they're not, they can't do as much harm as they say they can. And there was one other country. Let me see. It was Brazil. Let me see. Brazil looks fine. I didn't see any major treacherous things happening there. Oh, Russia. That's what I wanted to talk about. Russia. Yeah, Russia's going to go through some big, and they already have economic crises because they are still not giving up and they're still not, surrendering. So they're going to be forced to deal with still into the next year of 2015.
Fascinating, Joni. Wow, there's a lot coming up this year.
That's about everything I wanted to say. So is there any questions, anything you can think of, Victoria, that came up for you?
Well, certainly the leader, he's very fascinating, that we're going to have such a dynamic world leader enter the stage here. It's something that we really haven't had for a long time, and so my mind was going to, who could this possibly be? Is it someone we are already aware of? Is it someone that's just going to suddenly appear that has not had any major attention or publicity? And do you have any insight on that?
I'm getting the sense that it's someone new. It's someone we didn't consider because, we're looking at the people that are saying they're going to contend for the presidential nomination for the next term. And, I looked at Hillary Clinton's chart. It looked amazing. She has a good chance, And then I also looked at, she's the only one that I looked at because I have her chart and she's, definitely going to run. She has a strong chance of making it. And, but the most important thing is I think somebody is going to come out of left field that I think could be more powerful. And I think this is going to be somebody who really can make a difference in some way. And it's not just the same old, same people in politics doing the same old thing. And, people are getting very disheartened over, politics. It's like, oh, it's just politics, it's not about leadership are really taking charge and finding a different way to do things. Because you see, here's the key thing. We're finding different ways to do things. The world is changing. The old paradigm doesn't work anymore.
I think we've all recognized that with the way that the Congress has been so stalemated for what seems like years and years here in America. So something new and something that actually has leadership is, I think, a really good thing, and a lot of Americans would embrace, and hopefully the world. You know, this is all very interesting, and every month I want to just remind everyone that you can go to astrologicmagazine.com and read Joni's insights and predictions for that month. We have an extensive a lot of research goes into this. Joni spends a lot of time on this, I know, and there will be more detailed information for each month. She's just gone over the really broad things here that we wanted to share with you. But astrologicmagazine.com will always have detailed information, not only about world events, but people, astrofinance, as we mentioned. There's so much information in there that can help you create your own personal roadmap by navigating not only the world around you, but thereby the world within you. So we really appreciate you spending this time with us and listening to these predictions, because they really do come to pass. After years of working with Joni on this, I can tell you they do happen. So thank you for joining us, and thank you, Joni, for spending your time and giving us these predictions.
Thank you, Victoria. My pleasure.
All right.